Now we have stunning new pictures, high resolution pictures from NASA, from the USGS and from Alaska about that Tracy Arm landslide with a almost 1,700 feet tsunami in some areas. And let's start with this before I show you all the other pictures and maps, and we can hear the mountain crash now. We can hear the earthquake waves, the seismic waves that this created. We can hear them travel. So we have a picture here. We have a picture here on the left that shows you the before of that glacier that was there, of the Tracy Arm. And you see the dotted lines here. The glacier, since that picture was taken, has retreated a little further. So everything behind the black dotted line is the glacier as it was when the landslide was triggered and was coming down into that fjord. And then picture B this year is the picture of August 13th. And interesting is here, approximate source of the area extent. So this is 1,000 meter long and 600 meters wide, so over 2,000 feet, and at 1,000 meters elevation. And the whole thing has come down. We will see pictures very soon how it has looked once it came down. But what you need to see here, it has fallen on the glacier in big parts, but it has also fallen in the water, has pushed the water away, and has basically created a new land mass. This is 3 days after it happened, so the water was coming back already, and it's taking away, it's washing away all the rock and debris that was there. So now we see water again. But very, very interesting, guys, is what you see here on the other side. So that was falling down into the water, creating this splash of a height, they say, tsunami run up approximately of 470 to 500 meters, so 1,700 feet. That is absolutely enormous. So at that time, if there had been any cruise ship, any tourist boat that takes tourists there to look at the glacier, or fishermen or kayakers or anything, that would have been over and out. But now let's have a look at some pictures how this really looks. So we look at this picture here. There you see the scar, the different colored rocks. There you see how everything fell down from here into the water. And isn't it astonishing how smooth that surface looks? How this has separated from that deep slope, from that rock, has all fallen into here. And then this is the other side where it had the run-up tsunami, the 1,700 feet run-up tsunami. And if you look at this fjord here, this is where boats are coming in. This is where tourist boats are coming in. So cruise ships are coming in. So this is highly, highly dangerous. And yes, many have asked, why are there no videos of that landslide coming down? It seems they did not have it on the map. There were no surveillance instruments there. Actually, a tourist boat owner has kind of alerted seismologists and said, hey, I think something's going on. And then they were looking at their seismographs. Here's another picture where you can see the scar of the landslide, and you can see the debris in the water that has pushed away. The water has basically created more land, but the water is already coming in and coming back, washing that out over time. Here you can see how this looks from an aerial picture. This picture was taken on August 7th, 3 days before the landslide happened. So this is the area where the landslide happened, the Sawyer Glacier, and this is the area where the landslide came down. And scientists are saying there was no hint of the location of the landslide or that something would happen. But then it came down here and it covered that area, and then it was coming down all the way here And we will see an interesting location here where the kayakers were on a remote island. So look at this here, Harbor Island. This is where the 3 people were sleeping in their tent, and then they saw the water, a water runoff of 15 feet. And it stopped only 2 inches before their tent here on Harbor Island. They were 3 kayakers that came there, and they woke up. One of them woke up and saw the water basically right where the tent is, saw their gear washed away, saw one kayak spiraling in the water and then being placed up on a tree. So then the kayaker tried to wake up his colleagues, and then they were assessing the situation. What do we do? I mean, can you imagine if you're here on that island that you'd think that a landslide that far here would come down and then create a tsunami here on that island? They were very, very lucky. We have to say the only casualties in this event are some gear and kayaks. They had radios and they decided not to set a distress emergency call, but they were asking, is someone in the area? Can someone pick us up? And a boat pretty quickly heard them and picked them up. And so they were rescued. But that tsunami was taking corners, and that's why it was even noticed as far as Juneau, Alaska. And you can see on this picture here how the tsunami has washed away the trees. This was all filled with trees, densely grown trees. It's all gone. It's all exposed soil and rocks now. Here on this picture, it's been taken out from a plane, but you see it's taken from the perspective of the site where the 1,700 feet runoff was happening. So what you see on the bottom of this picture is the washed out area from that monster tsunami that was created by the landslide across the fjord. And you can also see the glacier, and you can see all the debris covering the water. This is a very, very good picture. And guys, now here it comes. Let's look at the seismic waves, and we have to compare it, and the USGS compares it to the 2015 October 17th mega tsunami, how they call it, in the Taan Fjord. That has triggered a mega tsunami of almost 200 meters over 670 feet. And this one here is way bigger. But at that time, it was one of the highest tsunamis ever recorded. So I think we're breaking records here with the Tracy Arm Landslide and mega tsunami. The Taan Fjord landslide is estimated to be the largest in North America since the Mount St. Helens eruption. Well, you're wondering, what is a landslide to do with a volcanic eruption? Well, volcanoes send down lahars, volcanic landslides, so to speak, mud flows. The Taan Fjord landslide has sent approximately 180 million tons of rock and glacial sediment into the fjord. Resulting tsunami inundated over 20 square kilometers of coastline, has stripped vegetation, and that is the interesting part, has swept the debris very far, the sediments very far inland. And it was similar. A portion of the mountain slide did collapse at the terminus of the Tyndall Glacier. Also here, the event was only detected by seismographs after the event had happened. And now let's compare the two events. And then I'll let you hear the seismic event. But first, let's have a look at this side-by-side comparison of the seismograms of the Taan Fjord landslide and the Tracy Arm landslide. The volume of the Taan Fjord slide, estimated volume 70 to 80 million cubic meters. Volume estimates depend on the height and the run out of the landslide, as well as the mass of the overall material. And regardless of what these parameters end up being for the Tracy Arm Landslide. We don't have exact numbers yet. It is significantly larger in volume. So the comparison suggests that the Tracy Arm Landslide is well in the excess of 100 million cubic meters. And now let's look at these seismographic waves, the technical details of this. So the seismograms are vertical component records from stations in the global seismographic network at distances of 3,200 to 4,600 kilometers. And the records are filtered on 20 to 100 second periods, and they are corrected for instrument response. And then you will see or hear that as well. So you can see where the seismic waves have been measured at stations in New Mexico, Arizona, in Kamchatka. That is not that far away, and that has been rumbling quite a bit. Greenland, Indiana, Oahu, Hawaii, Pennsylvania, Norway, and you can see Tracy Arm is significantly larger than what the Taan Fjord has produced. And we can see here on this picture which stations have detected the landslide. They're not immediately where the landslide is. So the yellow square is the landslide, and the little yellow dots are basically the precursor events. And Sawyer Island that we see here on the map, that was one of the first pictures that we saw. Sawyer Island was completely razored by the tsunami. We only see one lone tree standing. The rest has been completely erased. And also the shorelines have been completely cleared of trees, and you see that it's pure rocks that is exposed. So the dot with the white circle around it, these are the measuring stations that have first detected the landslide. And the Alaska Earthquake Center has released pictures of these seismic stations and basically are happy that they have them, and they said it's a testimony to our strong field team and our partnerships with agencies that helped install and support these stations, the USGS and Earth Scope Science, and the city and the borough of Juneau, Alaska. And they say that their robust statewide network allows for the kind of rapid detection and assessment of seismic events that these workhorses, how they call them, provided. But let's not forget, the first person who noticed something was not their stations. It was a person that owns a tourist boat. She alerted them, and then they looked it up. This is a standstill picture of the seismic data that led to the landslide and the precursor waves. And then you see where the big red graph is. That's when the actual landslide happened. And now I want to show you how the Alaska Earthquake Center was able to transfer this into sound for us to hear it. So this video that I'm about to show you and that you will hear is a sonified version of the precursory quakes and the landslide of that Tracy Arm sequence. Sonified means that the seismic signal has been shifted to the audible range and sped up. So this is not the actual time, this is accelerated time. And this video shows one of the nearest Alaska Earthquake Center stations, S31K, and it begins 7 hours in advance of the event and it ends 2 hours after the event. The video is sped up 1,002 times faster than the real time. And what you see there in this graphic, the lower plot shows the seismic signature in velocity leading up to the landslide, with the green line is showing the corresponding audio time. And then the upper plot that we see there is called a spectrogram. It shows how much energy is being recorded by the station at different frequencies over time. So you can see that the spectrogram is getting brighter up to the bright vertical line that is the landslide. So this means that the number of events and the amount of energy is increasing up to the big failure when the mountain's coming down. And then after that, there are only a few events. So at the beginning, when you hear that, the events sounds like rain or popcorn popping. And then once we progress, you will notice that the frequency of the events is increasing dramatically. And by the time the video reaches the 12 o'clock UTC timeline, the individual events become a buzzing sound because they're happening very, very frequently. A lot of them. And at last, the landslide itself is loud and sounds like a door slamming. And then the video ends with a relative quiet phase when the landslide finally subsided. And also here, this graphic that they have given us shows us the circle of events, and then you see where the yellow lines are so close together. This is when the landslide actually happened. And you can also see how the waves were traveling here beginning August 10th. And it's crazy how far they travel. So that we have these data available, guys, is amazing. I know we wish we had a video, but unfortunately nobody was expecting that this would happen. I have just released a video about the Tracy Arm Landslide. If that thing happens, yes, we will have a video. And the Tracy Arm Landslide will produce, if it all comes down at once, a monster, mega, ultimate tsunami. And this will be very, very destructive. Whittier is highly at risk from that. Of course, not from such a high tsunami, but still waves high enough. Everything ranges from 30 feet to 15 feet. That is still bad for a coastal community. Check out that video in the end screen because that is a monster. They have now, across from that breaking point, they have set up seismic instruments. There's no confirmation that there's a camera, but I surely do hope so that they do have one. But there's more that I want to show you here about the Tracy Arm Landslide, guys. I'm excited about the data and the diagrams and the pictures that we have now. These are pictures that were taken by Jacek Maselko and then published by the Alaska Earthquake Center. It shows the scar, it shows the landslide, it shows how massive this was and how much debris was falling on the glacier and into the water. So I really love these pictures. But we have more before and after pictures from an aerial point of view that will show us how the sides of the fjords were eroded by that tsunami. Let's have a look at these before and after pictures. Although no one was luckily in Tracy Arm, thankfully, when the landslide crashed into the water last Sunday, they're now starting to get some images, some satellite images of that show just how large that event was. These before and after satellite images show places where that tsunami completely scoured the fjord walls down to bedrock, and the locations of the different insets can be found in the main image by the differently colored boxes. And then the first images uses the visible spectrum like a normal photograph, so you see everything green. And then the second images shows the near infrared, which highlights vegetation so that the newly bare rock where the vegetation, the trees have been eroded, is visibly more evident. And note that the run-up of the tsunami that is indicated by this new bare rock on the opposing fjord wall, how massive that is. That's the area where it has created the highest run-up. And Sawyer Island, that was completely erased. The lone tree that survived the tsunami. And look at these two pictures. Nordhaven yacht might kind of like a commercial for their boats. This yacht was right there at the glacier at Tracy Arm on August 4th, shortly 6 days before the tragedy happened. Had they been where they were when the landslide happened, they would have been crushed and basically, I think, thrown up to the other side of the fjord. So thankfully, no one was there when the landslide happened. So guys, forces of nature can be amazing, but very, very dangerous. I hope you liked the video. Please leave it a like, share it with your friends. If you want to support the channel, guys, I have a Buy Me a Coffee site. Link is in the description of this video. Click the join button for behind the scenes videos to become a supporting member. And of course, thank you for your supers, and just thank you for watching, commenting, liking, and sharing. So stay safe. Check out the videos in the end screen. A lot of interesting stuff. So subscribe, check out my channel start page on a regular basis, because notifications don't always work. Go on videos, go on latest, or just search for your topic. I have a lot of landslides, volcanoes, earthquakes, natural disasters. I see you there, safe and sound, I hope. Bye-bye.